Move to approve.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action approving payment of $190,000 even to MI Homes of Minneapolis LLC as per the approved escrow agreement dated December 23rd, 2015 for the satisfactory completion of the obligation to complete the construction of the Ward Avenue extension.
I'll move to approve. This is pretty standard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if anybody has any
Second.
questions, I'm happy to answer, but.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Approved council claims of $1,467,803.41.
This includes the purchase of land for parks, the M&I payment, the 2021 street project, and then police holiday pay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Purchase of 2 squad cars for 2022.
Good evening. So I put out RFPs for 2 squads for next year. I received from Ewald Automotive Group, also the state bid, and then obviously Hudson Ford. Hudson Ford came in significantly cheaper than even the state bid. And I know that this is, probably going to be pulled at council meeting. So the original quote was for a standard engine from Hudson Ford at $30,000 per vehicle. With the information I received, I asked for a quote today on the hybrid vehicle, and that quote is $33,000 for a hybrid per vehicle. Both of which are significantly cheaper than the state bid, and Ewald by about $4,000.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the purchase of 2 hybrids.
The only thing we want to be cognizant of is I have $100,000 to buy and build the 2 new squad cars, right? So at $30,000 a piece, we're at $60,000. Cost me about $15,000 each to have lights and radio and everything installed. And it cost me an additional 10 or so to buy new computers, new radars, things like that. The current radars that we have in our cars right now, in the older cars that we're trying to replace, have been in existence for about 15 to 17 years, so it's time to start updating the technology. So I have to buy new radars when I buy the new cars. So that puts us right to $100,000 with the standard engine. So that's something we need to think about.
For
But you
one-
should save money on the gasoline. Would you be able
Yeah,
to?
theoretically, Ford says that you use about half the amount of gasoline through the life of a car. So with our split systems right now, one kept track on paper and one kept track by the computer. I can't tell you exactly how many we use per squad car, but Ford says that the hybrid will save about half the amount of gallons of gas throughout the life of the car.
All right, so just a second. We've got a motion on the floor right now. Is there a second to the motion? The motion is to buy 2 hybrids. Is that right, Joyce?
Yes.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay, motion fails for lack of a second.
No, I'll move we approve the 2 the 2 purchases from Ford, right? Ford's cheaper?
Yes.
Hudson Ford, yes.
Yeah, Hudson Ford, sorry.
All right, we got a motion. Is there a second?
I do have a question. It's cheaper by how much?
$3,000 per vehicle.
3,000 per vehicle.
So the total cheaper by $6,000.
We got a motion. Is there a second? This is going to be discussed at the.
Right, exactly,
This is
and I'm-
going to be pulled from the consent calendar.
Yeah,
So if you
Right.
want a discussion on that, we're going to need to approve one of these motions.
What's the discussion? Whether to buy a hybrid or start moving the fleet into that?
Right, I think that'll be when it gets
Whose
pulled.
whose direction? Where's it coming from?
I think Councilmember Bruck will pull it from the consent agenda for conversation.
So do you have charging stations set up?
You know, just a second.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second.
Okay, these are hybrids, they do not require charging stations.
Right, so the way they operate is, when the vehicle is in idle, it runs on battery and not on the gas engine, and then when you're operating it through the gas engine, then it recharges the battery. So you don't have to plug it in to charge it, you still fill it up with regular gasoline, but it doesn't use gasoline when it's in idle.
Has there been studies done that address, because you have your cars running all the time? How do you?
Well, every law enforcement agency, right?
Well, I'm not just saying you, yes.
Yeah,
So
so,
how do the batteries stay charged or whatever?
Hybrids have been shown to be.
I'm asking Jeff
Okay.
Joyce.
I don't know how that works, Randy. I don't know how that works. If it's an alternator type system that recharges the battery when you're in gasoline, or the actual mechanics of it, I'm not aware of it.
Will it work for your need? Is there studies out there?
Well, they've had them for several years that agencies have purchased. I haven't spoken to any of those agencies. A lot of them are the bigger agencies. And I haven't heard either positive or negative of them.
Chief, do we have any reports from anybody? Have you had a chance to talk to anybody around the area that has this to see how they work?
I haven't.
Do any of them have it around there in the area?
Not in this area. Maybe there's some agencies in Minnesota that have them, but there are none in northwestern Wisconsin that have them.
Okay. So what happens then if I don't know how these work necessarily, but if your vehicle is in idle, your officers happens frequently, I get calls on, that's where,
Yeah, then the gas engine, from what I understand, then the gas part of the engine shuts off and the battery takes over running the components inside the vehicle to keep it warm, to keep it cool, to keep the components, the electronics inside running.
and then when the battery runs down, the engine will start up automatically?
Well, I would assume, not knowing, I would assume if the battery runs down to a certain point, then the gas engine kicks back on to start recharging it.
Okay. Is that, do they leave the keys in the car while they're,
No. No, we can leave them running and take the keys out.
okay. Anybody else?
So what I was saying was that the studies have shown that the hybrid vehicles are the most economical when used with mainly city driving. So if you do a lot of highway driving, then the hybrids are less economical. So something like a police car is a good fit for a hybrid vehicle. I've been driving a hybrid since, 2012, I think.
I don't have a strong recommendation either way. From what I can understand, the engine is the same. It's just got a battery component to it. But like I said, it's going to be about $6,000. I'm going to come in about $6,000 over budget if we buy the hybrids.
Okay, well,
That's my only point.
we can amend budgets too.
What was that, Joyce?
I said we can amend budgets.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we've got a motion and a second. Again, something needs to come out of here one way or another. Either recommendation, no recommendation, but a motion for no recommendation to go directly to the council. But we got a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, Chief. Are you up again, or now we got Scott? God, he looks good in those whites, doesn't he? What's that gonna cost us?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Finance Committee members. I'm dressed up just for you, so thanks. Believe it or not, I'm here asking for purchase of a Ford Explorer. Not a Police Interceptor Explorer. It is a regular Explorer. It's not a hybrid. I looked into that for our application, which is much different than the police application. Our miles is much less. We do about 4,000 miles in this car and very little idling at all, where the advantages are to the hybrid. That being said, we're looking at the model with the small four-cylinder turbo motor, which is much less powerful, the gas mileage, average gas mileage, is exactly the same as the Police Interceptor hybrid. Reason being is that Police Interceptor has to do 136 miles an hour. It has all that. We don't need that. So looking at all of the factors in it, I'm suggesting we get the non-hybrid model from Hudson Ford for $30,500 versus a state bid price of $32,605. Part of my reasoning is, first of all, I'm a big believer in hybrids. I'm looking for one myself. I know a lot of people that have them. I think most applications, they are better. This is one instance, I believe, that is an outlier, that it really doesn't make as much sense when the mileage is the same. Maintenance costs are typically higher over the time. The carbon footprint to build a non-hybrid versus a hybrid because of the batteries and the metals is less. So all in all, with the mileage the same and the carbon footprint, the maintenance, for us, I think it makes most sense. Now, that's probably a 1%. The other 99%, it probably does make sense. But and part of my responsibility as a department head is to look fiscally. So if you're asking my opinion, I think socially, ecologically, and fiscally, this is the best for us at this time. So, any questions?
I'll move we approve. From
Second.
Ford, 30,500.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, Chief. Discussion possible action on personnel policy update.
So I mentioned in the memo, we updated our policy. We did a significant update of the policy about a year or so ago. Since that, we've got a new city attorney on board, who we've had a review. We've identified a couple things that need changed. So we included the whole manual, but just the very last page of the packet summarizes the changes to it. Again, they're mostly just nothing substantive other than their policy changes. They're making sure that we clarified a few things. Nothing that was really changing the intent, I guess, or anything like that. So I guess we're asking for a recommendation of approval of the updated policy.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Motion and second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. I've got nothing for next meeting. Anybody? This is our last Finance Committee meeting of the month.
The year.
Move to adjourn?
Year
Second.
2021. Anything?
Bill
I
moved
move
to adjourn and I
move to
seconded.
adjourn.
Oh, okay. Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody. We take it like 5 minutes. We'll get going with the council meeting.